What's going on, everybody? This is Ryan. We are here for book 21 of The Library presented by Classic Buffalo. I am interviewing a girl named Annie LaFleur. She told me it's just like from Dodgeball. So Annie's really funny. She's really cool. She has a really big passion for music, and we actually get along really well. You'll hear that. And we kind of lose track of time at some points. But I think there's some stuff that I kind of wanted to cover in the episode, but at the same time, I hope you enjoy it because it's really just the natural and casual way that I think sometimes the podcast is going to go. And I think that's okay. And I still think it was really good content. So I really hope you enjoy it. This is going to be, I think, a good one. So let's get to it. Let's listen to me talk with Annie. Yeah, hello, is this Annie? I'm looking for Annie. Is this Annie?
This is Annie.
What's up, Annie? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Like you said before we were on the call, your last name is LaFleur, like in Dodgeball. Is Dodgeball your favorite movie of all time? Yes or no?
No. It's not bad. I like it. It's just not my favorite of all time.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Embarrassingly, Blazing Saddles.
What is that about? I've never heard of that.
It's a bad movie. It's by Mel Brooks, and it's like a comedy western. It's very off color and probably not appropriate for the times, but it was just like, I think I have such nostalgia with it because it was the first kind of naughty movie that my parents let me watch when I was younger, which I didn't realize at the time. And then when I watched it as an adult, I was like, Mom and Dad, what were you guys thinking letting me watch this? But I think it's more just a nostalgia thing for me as to why I like it. And it's just such an outrageous movie.
Is it a recent one or like one of those old timey
No,
movies?
it was in the 70s. So Gene Wilder was in it, and Cleavon Little. So it was...
Okay. Do you know that I just something triggered me to think of this, but you know that the guy who plays Fonzie, right?
Henry Winkler.
Yeah, Henry Winkler. So I'm like aware of like this dude, random guy playing Fonzie. Like I know what Fonzie looks like, but then I would also notice this Henry Winkler, all of the roles that he plays like now are this like awkward, sometimes funny guy, right? And I had no idea that was the same guy until like last year.
Now that I'm thinking about it, that's so true because he played the Fonz, who was so cool and suave.
Yeah.
And now he plays kind of like the nerdy dad that like says inappropriate things or like goofy things.
Right. I just found that out. It's one of those like this year I learned. So that was my 2019 thing. Speaking of which, what's something that you just made a connection about? Was there anything you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that's why it's called XYZ, or I had no idea about blah, blah, blah.
I feel like it happens on a daily basis, surprisingly, with song lyrics. Most notably, oh my gosh, now I can't think of what the song is called. It's some Jason Derulo song. And he says, go ahead and go ham sandwich. But I sang, go ahead and go ham salad for like the whole time I've known the song. And I was really rocking out to it. And my friend, her name is also Annie. She said, wait, what did you just sing? And I said, go ahead and go ham salad. She's like, why did you think they would put that in a song? But I guess it's the Midwesterner in me that thought that he loved ham salad so much he'd pay an homage to in a song. But that happens to me all the time. I mess up lyrics horribly.
Ham salad 2019 hashtag. You mentioned the Midwest. So where are you from? Let's go timeline. It'll be a good segue. Let's start in the beginning. There was Annie, and she was born in insert city.
I was born in Derby, Kansas. It is a small little town outside Wichita. And then when I was 4 years old, we moved to the most haunted town in America, Atchison, Kansas. And then we moved to Sioux City, Iowa. And then after that, for the longest period of my life, we lived in Cleveland, Ohio. And then 2 years ago, I moved to Nashville, but all of my family is still back in Cleveland.
Wow. So, I mean, Kansas, that's so nuts. I always think it's so interesting, people who grew up in like Oklahoma and Kansas, because I feel like if you're not in Oklahoma City or like in Wichita, you're literally in the middle of nowhere. It's not just Midwest, like you're kind of like near Indianapolis, like you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're like 10 minutes around the corner from Walmart. But it's like if you're in the middle of nowhere, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you're in the middle of nowhere. We used to, like, we would do shopping trips probably twice a year because we would have to drive to St. Joe, Missouri to go to an actual mall.
How far?
I think it was like an hour and a half drive. I could be totally wrong, but as a child, it felt like it was 5 hours. So, but it was a hike. Like it was our shopping day, and our mom was like, "You better find something because we're not coming back."
Did you go to like Costco, like get food for like the whole month, or do you just like were you on a farm and you grew all your food?
We went to Sam's Club. That is what is in Kansas.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of Sam's Clubs. We did have like our small town had a Walmart, so we would go there too. But it wasn't like so far out in the boonies, but far out enough that big shopping excursions were like a day trip.
That's nuts. It's like the Oregon Trail, but for real.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on Oregon Trail? Did you ever play it as a kid?
I could never get past the start screen. I'm the worst. I'm the worst with video games.
You didn't even get to die of dysentery.
No, I couldn't even start to live to die.
Oh my gosh. You didn't play video games growing up, did you?
I played Mario. So Mario is like my thing. That's still my thing. Mario World 3 is my favorite. But yeah, like Mario Kart, I'm the worst. I can't, it's really sad. I just watch other people play anymore because it's embarrassing.
So do you have like a Wii U or whatever it's called? A Switch? Do you have a Nintendo Switch?
No, so I'm a cheater and I got the Super NES like mini console that has all the games on it.
Ooh.
But my siblings do still have the old school, like true Super Nintendos.
Never gets better than Mario. Just it's one of the most classic things you can get. I mean, I've hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't like playing Mario.
Yeah, and if they don't, question them. Just question them. Our other favorite game growing up was Guts, Nickelodeon Guts.
Oh,
do you have it?
You have it. Guts. Guts. Yeah, it's really funny because that's actually a running joke in my family where we'll actually just watch YouTube videos of old Guts things and the aggro crag, and then we always make fun of Mo, the judge. In first place is the Janice, and just we all do our own like interpretation of her accent. But that's one of my favorite shows of all time. That one in what's it called?
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yes, Legends of the Hidden Temple, and like the purple monkeys and the silver snakes or whatever.
I just remember watching.
I always get scared when they ran into the little bodyguard guys when they're in the last temple, like the jump scares.
That and then Double Dare. I was so determined that I was going to be on one of those shows, and then when I finally got to the age, they were long gone.
Right. So did you grow up in the 90s then? You grew up in the 90s?
I did. I was born in 92.
Okay.
So.
All right. Yeah, you're a 90s kid. I'm 93.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I always hate when people are like 92, so you don't even know what a floppy disk is. I'm like, we had black and green computers. Yeah. No, like I understand.
Right. Yeah. We had MySpace. We had AOL. We had a little. It was like right at the end of. We're not like I don't know. That's always like we get thrown in with the millennial or like kind of what's now even worse. Like anybody basically the 2000 to now, just like the kids that are just buried in their iPads. Like we were pretty bad with technology, but not as bad or as engulfed in.
I feel like it hit us in middle school. Is really like my family. My mom was always a technology nerd. So we were one of the first families to have a computer. My parents were on the eBay bandwagon way before anybody else. I thought it was magic when one day I was 5 years old and this like mother of pearl emerald green small child size accordion showed up in a box on our front stoop. And I was like, where did this come from? And my parents said, eBay. It's just like this magic site where these random things came to me. I loved it.
So what are your thoughts on like generation gaps? I mean, let's kind of cover that a little bit where, like I think it's easier for us to judge the next generation and then we get the judgment from our parents, and it's just kind of, it's cyclical,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are your thoughts on just in general, the way that each generation should look at the next? Because it ends up being a judgment, right? But when you are that generation that's being judged, you're like, come on, this is like, I grew up like this. There's sort of like, you can't do so much about it, but I'm curious what you just think of sociologically about generations, and even more specifically, what you think of the next generation.
Wow, that's a very deep question. Um, I I think it as far as judging generations, I don't think people should do it in a broad stroke because, especially when the term millennial came out, that was when it initially came out, it was spanning people from 12 years old to 32 years old. So you have people with children and then actual children in that group. So to have the broad stroke of, oh, millennials don't want to work or they don't want to buy a house or, they lack, uh,
Mm-hmm.
what's the word? Initiative. I
Yeah.
That drove me crazy. I actually worked for a company that every Monday morning meeting was just a hate fest on millennials. And I
That was fun, I'm
I
sure.
finally so I was really quiet and I finally stood up one Monday morning meeting and I said, "Hey, like explained the gap of it, and I said I'm a millennial, but I said I got my bachelor's degree in 2.5 years and I bought my first house at 22 years old. So like these things that you're saying about millennials are not true to me, so just stop putting that over
Mm-hmm.
everybody." But yeah, I think at least how I assess generations, I just really look at the person. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of it depends on how you were raised, and
Mm-hmm.
that affects a lot of things. And like my sister, she and I joke that we're going to be the uncool parents because she has kids and they don't have tablets and they don't have cell phones, and they're old school kids
Mm-hmm.
where, they sit in laundry baskets and play roller coaster. And to answer your question about what do I think about the future generation, again, I would have to broad stroke to answer that, but I think there's
Yeah.
such a lack of community that makes me really sad and is a little bit scary because things like this, you and I don't know each other, and you're
Correct.
calling me up and we're having a like it's going to be a deep conversation. That's something that
Mm-hmm.
would scare the pants off a lot of people and they wouldn't be able to do it. And especially having these types of conversations in person, it's almost impossible
Yeah.
anymore. So I think that's the one thing that kind of scares me, and I really try to emphasize with my friends is when we're together, put your phone down. You don't have to be on Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram all the time. And like I told you, I took an Instagram hiatus and it was really just
Mm-hmm.
to kind of disconnect from that because I easily get sucked
Yeah.
into it too. It's not me pointing fingers. I have to constantly remind myself too, like, hey, put your phone down and be present in the moment.
You got to hear this story because it's actually one I share. It's I'm out hanging out with a guy for the first time, and he was doing photo shoots for Vintage Indie, my clothing company. That so I get some of my friends model, and we're just meeting for the first time, and we were trying to think of a movie, like, oh, it's this thing, and I literally go, oh, well, I'll just Google it real quick, and he goes, don't Google it. He goes, put your phone away. He goes, we have to figure this out without using our phones, and it was like, oh my god, it just kind of hit me like all at once. Where I was like, I use my like if there's people that would just like something that's like on the tip of your tongue, like if you couldn't think of a song, you couldn't Google it, you couldn't use your phone. It was just like you had to figure it out, or you had to talk to other people. Like, hey, it's sort of like if you had to try and figure out what song by mumbling the words to a stranger, or you'd have to go to the library or just hope that you knew the answer to a question and could figure it out. You couldn't just Google it. I don't know. That just like blew my mind.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so, so true. It's funny because that's one of the things, because I'm like, oh, I would love to go back to a flip phone. But then I think about things like that where I'm like, oh, but it's so easy to look up, something that I can't figure out. It's just right on the tip of my tongue.
Right. I don't know. I think it's going to end up having to be, and maybe it's a pendulum where we're just going to all of a sudden swing all the way back where we just completely avoid technology, and then it'll come back to the middle where we're going to have to find a way to, taking classes essentially, maybe not literally, but just on how to integrate both our old childhood and where we were in the 90s, or even our parents, and just being able to be outside and do stuff, and then still being able to use technology in a bonding way, like in helpful and useful ways, like we're using it, like podcasting and getting to know people in support groups and engaging with people who aren't in your actual area. Like that might be kind of cool if we could find a way to do that, but I'm not really sure how it plays out.
Yeah. Whenever I get freaked out about the future, I just kind of look at the past, and it is such an ebb and flow. And like you said, it's a pendulum. Because I mean, you think about technology, they had weight loss technology where they're like, here, wrap this belt around your waist and it's going to shake the fat off of you. And it was like all these gyms were just basically these weird robotic machines that were supposed to do the work for you. And then people realized, hey, that doesn't work. So yeah, it's always like you're going to go way far one direction, and then you're going to go really far in the other direction. And hopefully in our generation, we just land in that sweet spot for a good amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was your family, life like?
My family's super close. So I'm one of four. My parents have like the most adorable meet cute story, and they've been together for, I think they're coming up on 35 years.
Can you share it?
Yeah. So they, through mutual friends, they went on a blind double date, and my mom was seeing someone at the time, and because she's a hussy, and then she ended up breaking up with the guy the next day. And then my parents just hung out, and my dad proposed after knowing her for 3 weeks. And then they got married after knowing each other for only 9 months. And then they've been together ever since. They just knew that they were the ones. So, but yeah, we had a really close family dynamic. We still do. And I think that's the one hard thing about me being in Nashville, is that my family's not here. So I'm often making the 8-hour drive home to see my family, and I just find that that's something that whenever I get in a funk, it's usually because I've been away from my family for a little too long. So once I find myself just getting upset about things that are really silly, I try to plan a trip home to go see them.
I felt that way when I went to Florida after college to go work. I just felt like I needed to be back in Indianapolis where all my family was. I don't know. It just was really anxiety generating to be so far away. And I don't know. Maybe it's just like it was a new thing for the first time, but at the same time, it's telling myself like, hey, I need to be back home. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's funny because when you're a kid, you want to get away from your family. And then as you get older, you're like, wait, no, I want to be next door to you guys.
What are some of your like favorite memories like growing up?
Some of my favorite memories. We did family road trips all the time. And I think those are some of my favorite family memories, and nothing really specific, but I loved, like, we called it the big pan van. So it's a big passenger van, and you had the middle bucket seats, and then you could fold down the back, and it essentially turned into a bunk bed. But when we would take road trips in the winter, we would just fold down the back bed, and my parents would always leave out super early. So we would leave at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and we would just pile blankets and pillows back there. And all 4 of us kids would go back there and just like curl up under the blankets. And I don't know, those memories were so good. I just remember it being like snowy and cold, and our fun little family road trips. Those were some of our funniest family stories have come from road trips. And that's something that I want to pass along in the future, because I think
for sure,
those were such good bonding moments for us.
So you want a family someday?
Yeah.
Do you know where you would want to live? Do you like Nashville?
I like Nashville for right now, but I think I'll definitely end up going home once I'm married and go back to Cleveland and be next to my family.
Hmm. Cleveland. Were people like LeBron? Were people like losing it when LeBron? I don't know if you're into basketball at all, but like when LeBron won the NBA Finals, like for Cleveland, were people just like losing their shit?
Yeah. Yeah. Cleveland was absolutely nuts. And it was because I mean, that was what we had been wanting. And they were so mad when he left for Miami. And then he came back, and it was like everyone was sad that they had burned his jersey. And then we loved him so much. And then when we won, it was just like that uplifted the spirit of the city so much. And that was really the moment when Cleveland started going through its renaissance. And if
Mm,
anybody tells you that Cleveland is not a cool city, it is spoken by someone who has never been, because it's a really, really great city. There's a lot to do there.
wow.
This is my, that's such a Clevelander thing to do too. Like, we have such pride for the city.
Hmm.
And it's like, don't let anybody tell you that we're the mistake by the lake. We are awesome.
The mistake by the lake. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Harsh, right?
A little bit. So, how did you get into music? Because that's like a pretty big part of your life right now, and just historically. Like, I wanna get to know a little bit about that. When did you get into music?
Oh my gosh. Ever like the typical answer of my whole life.
Yeah.
I was singing before I could talk. And again, another road trip story. This was my first, because I'm a songwriter, and my first memory of writing a song was on a road trip. And I kept singing the song Hit the Road Jack. And
Hmm.
I only knew the chorus, and I did not know the verses. And so little 4-year old Annie was like, well, if I don't know the verses, I'm just going to write my own. And so once I wrote them out, I sang the song to my family in the car, and they're like, wow, that's great. And so I've been writing songs, like horrible songs, my whole life. And then once I graduated from high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I was paying for college by myself. And so I took a break year because I thought I wanted to go to culinary school. And thank goodness
Mm.
I didn't, and ended up going back and got my marketing degree. And music was just always something. So during that break too, sorry,
Yeah.
I had gone to a studio in Cleveland and was working with a producer, and I was going to put an EP together, but things happened and that didn't go through. Thank God, because I would not have been mentally ready to take on the music world at 19. And so did the typical career, went back to college, got my marketing degree, worked for a big corporate company. And then um, I ended up breaking up with a serious boyfriend. And my sister, I remember, because I just wasn't really happy in Cleveland and
Yeah.
wasn't really happy in the jobs where I was working. And my sister and I went out to dinner, and she said, you've always talked about music, you've always written songs, you've talked about Nashville. Why don't you just go and do it? She's like, you don't have kids, you don't have a relationship, like, you're single and free, just go try it out. And that was just the pivotal moment where I had been resisting it for a long time, because I think the idea of doing music full time was really scary, because it is such a jeopardy and you really have to rely on yourself. And I've I'm a serial procrastinator, and I just didn't think that I had it in me to do it seriously. And then when she said that, it was really just the kick in the pants that I needed to say, yeah, I've been avoiding this, but this is really what I'm supposed to be doing. So made my plans and moved to Nashville. It was, I think, like 6 months after she and I had that conversation that I
Wow.
moved.
Did you had anxiety about it?
I did. I did. It was kind of a weird move, but thankfully Nashville was such a great city. I gave myself a week from when I had moved to when I was going to start my job to just have a complete mental breakdown, And I really didn't, which was surprising because Nashville is just such a great city and it was really warm and inviting. So
Yeah.
I never, I did, like 2 months later, I did have that freak out. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced it when you were in Florida, but
Yes.
when you, yeah. And when you live on your own, it's so hard because
Yep.
like your parents can't always answer the phone and your sister can't always
Ah,
answer the phone.
yes.
And I just remember one night where I was just losing my mind and no one was answering their phone, and it hit me like I I chose to do this and I have to be okay being on my own sometimes. And I think that was a really big growth moment to just realize like sometimes you have to rely on yourself to pick yourself back up, and it's not the easiest, but you do grow from it a lot.
Yeah. I think that was what was really hard was I had a lot of alone moments. And so I grew up in Jensen Beach, Florida. And so like I was there until I was 12, then moved up to Indy where my mom's from. And I've been there kind of ever since. Then I graduated college and like a family friend was like, hey, do you want to come down and work? And I didn't have a job. So I'm like, yeah. So I went down back to my hometown and everyone's gone. Like I may have one or two friends that I grew up and was in middle school with, like sixth grade, but like everything's changed. The buildings are different. It's this foreign place because I don't know, your concept of distance and buildings and things are just completely different. And so that like I just I'd have tough things at work or I'd have something that would cause anxiety or whatever, and it would be accentuated because my family is back in my new hometown, of Indy. And it
Mm-hmm.
just I totally resonate with that. But it was one of the most growing things because I had to learn how to pay bills for the first time, how to cook more dishes, like learn how to be by myself for the first time. Like I ended up losing a lot of weight because I was like, I'm not going to be in the house. I might as well go rollerblade around town. So that's why I went and would go like to the downtown of my area,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the shopping district, and just rollerblade or play basketball. I met some people that way. I did Pokemon Go because that was really big when I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all to just kind of what's the one thing I can do to get out of my comfort zone, you know?
Yeah. That's so big. I did the opposite of you where I stayed in and I cooked and gained
Mm.
weight. So
Oh
recovering
well,
from that, but
recovering.
we all have our vices, and
Yeah,
I wish I could rollerblade, so that would have been one of mine.
yeah. Rollerblading was just one of the things you did in Florida. It was just like outdoor rollerblading, and then if you like, I'd go to hang out with my friends at the roller rink, and I just got really good at it. So it wasn't like a passion, like it wasn't like a family. My grandpa was a rollerblader, and you're gonna, you know. But
Yeah, you have your grandpa's skate spray
yeah,
painted gold sitting on a
God,
shelf.
yes, very much so. Blades of Glory Part Two.
Yeah.
So my question that I've wanted to ask you is, if I'm a person who is struggling with like this passion, let's again say it's music, or like I want to start my own app, let's say, and I really want to move out to Silicon Valley, or I really want to do music and I want to be in Chicago or Cleveland, or I want to be in Nashville or New Orleans. Like I want to be in like a music place. Maybe I've named some of the wrong cities, but you get what I'm saying. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say advice towards that person who it would involve moving to chase their dream, but maybe they're afraid?
As far as like mentally preparing to go,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or just like, how did you actually do it?
as far as like the logistical part of it, because I bought a duplex. So I ended up
Mm.
moving back in with my parents, rented out both of the units. So that was some income coming in, but just saved up. I was working at Starbucks at the time. And then I also worked at a Tarbucks, which is a Target Starbucks. So
Oh,
I was working almost 80 hours a week and just like grinding myself into the ground just to save up. I'm very much as I procrastinate, I am a person that like once I get my mind fixated on something, there's no
yeah.
stopping me.
Mm.
And because thank goodness my parents have always told me to focus at the light at the end of the tunnel
Right.
and just not get bogged down by the day-to-day things. Um, But so logistically, that's what I did. I mean, thankfully I had the support of my family and my parents to make that happen. And then I really started, my move to Nashville was really what started my self-help journey. That was always something that I found to be kind of woo-woo and that I didn't need. And I really did need it.
Yeah.
And so I had heard on a podcast, someone was talking about You Are a Badass. And so I bought myself a copy and I read it. And that was like, Jen Sincero was like my best friend when I moved to Nashville, because I would go to Bicentennial Park and I would just sit and I would read it and just remind myself that, yeah, I'm a badass. And something that something that I struggle with, and kind of when you were first asking the question, I was just thinking about this and didn't know if it was going to go in this direction, but I'll take it in that direction.
Good.
But thinking of pursuing a career in songwriting, or you starting a podcast, or someone wanting to develop an app or do something that is out of the realm of normal, like, because you could look at the Joe Rogans of the world and be like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to succeed. Like, I'm never going to reach his level. And something that's been hitting me recently is just the realization that these people are human, and everyone that is doing what you want to do, the that are killing it, the Jen Sinceros of the self-help world, or the Gary V's of the world.
Gary.
Yeah, and like the songwriters in my world that are just killing the game, like the Ross Bolins and the Benny Blancos, they're, at the end of the day, they're all human. And I think it really hit me because I went out with a songwriter who has great accolades, and he was just so kind and giving and just really helpful. And I think it was good to get that personal experience to remember, like, yeah, they could be your friend. And it's not impossible to be successful. The only thing that they have over you is that they just go for it every single day, and they just push and push and push. So if you can find that in your being, to have that kind of mentality too, there's absolutely nothing stopping you. They've already proven that the sky is the limit.
It's true. Yeah, if there's someone who looks like you, who's done it before, I mean, I think even a couple episodes back, it's like, I don't even know if that's true. It's like, who you can be that person that someone else is going to be like, well, they did it, It's like, I don't know. You just go for it, Like, if there's another person that's done it or looks like you or whatever, then that's more encouragement. But even if there's not, like, for example, like if you're going to be the first female XYZ, if you're going to be the first white blah blah blah, or the first black blah blah blah, or the first gay blah 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 blah, like just something, you're the first XYZ doing XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be the first. There doesn't need to be another person who's done it before, but if there has, give you encouragement. So it's almost like a win-win. Like it's a matter of perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what you can choose the way you want to be motivated, I guess.
I think America also has this weird obsession on what success looks like.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it goes around occasionally, but there's a video that Steve Harvey did that he was like pumping up the crowd before Family Feud. And he was saying, be the best at what you were put on this planet to do. So it kind of bums me out when people are like, oh, I would love to be successful, but I just really love landscaping. And like, that's not going to get me anywhere. Are you kidding me? Like, go be the best landscaper. I worked in property management, and like the landscaper that we used, he was living a very nice life. Like he was making money, and it's like, you don't have to have celebrity to be successful. You can be successful in what you're really good at and work your way up in that aspect. So I think that's something that we have to remind people of too, is like, it doesn't have to be fame or clout that determines success. It's just really being good at what you're passionate about.
Right.
And really maximizing yourself in that arena. So if it's an artistic pursuit or accounting, be the best damn accountant in Atchison, Kansas. But like, do it to the best of your ability every day. And I think that that determines your success. I think success too is a lot of your, I think a lot of it is how you define your success. That doesn't make sense.
Kind of. Yeah.
But I think like when I was talking to the songwriter that I went out with, I told him, I said, success, I will be successful if I came to Nashville and I know that I just went balls to the wall and did this as hard as I could and don't lose the passion for music. So if that means I get a number one hit on the radio or 100 number one hits, or I don't get any hits on the radio, that's fine. I will determine I determine success, me just really doing this as hard as I can and being able to sleep at night knowing that I'm really trying my best and doing my best.
Yeah. Success is being yourself.
Yeah.
And to the most full extent. And I think naturally, when you are yourself, there creates a motivation to do something, to do that thing that is the full extension of who you are. Whether that's a podcast, to start your own landscaping company, to write a song, to become a musician, your passion for XYZ and being fully diving into who you are, or the pursuit of knowing or better knowing that part of yourself, well, I feel like that by proxy creates motivation to do something with it.
It's so true. And it's so, I'm sure you've had moments where you've been 100% yourself and just comfortable in who you are and how
Yes.
goofy you are.
Yes.
And like people are attracted to you like a damn magnet. And then if you think about vice versa, the times when you just really weren't feeling yourself and felt like you had to put on a facade, people couldn't give two hoots about you. They're not attracted to you. And so it's really interesting when you are just living in the fullness of yourself how really great things happen, because I think it's the rare person that exudes true confidence and is comfortable being themselves 100%. And I know when I see someone who's comfortable being them, I'm attracted to them because I'm like, that's amazing. You're just being goofy and silly and 100% yourself. And I feel safe to come next to you and do the same.
Yeah. For some people, you spend 5 days a week doing a job you don't like, putting on a face, maybe even for longer amounts of period of time during the week to be this other person. So when you schedule an hour or 2 hours or whatever to just hang out with me, you get to put on the emotional sweatpants, or the personality sweatpants, take off the mask, take off the makeup, per se, metaphorically, and just be yourself. And I enjoy being that for people.
I love that. I think that's the highest compliment someone can give you. And I immediately felt that with you once you started, because you just introduced me in a goofy voice. I'm like, yes, this is my person.
Yeah.
Like it's no holds barred now. I don't have to pretend to be something that I'm not. So
Yeah, of
I
course.
love that. And you're definitely a rare bird in that aspect.
I think with years and years of judgment, um, and not fitting into my peer group, I've always been smarter than most people my age or more mature. And so I've never really gotten along with people my own age. And so like you kind of lose, like when you're the one blue jay like in the cage of thousands of all these normal birds, you may be the unique one, but all the other birds are always talking about you and saying, "Oh, you're different." I don't know. It's like you it flips on reverse, and you're not special in a positive way, but you're like the black sheep, becoming the black sheep. And you're both really, but at the same time, it is perspective and experience and working through trauma, or through, it doesn't have to be counseling necessarily, but it's through working to change your mindset and to change, going from the black sheep to the unique, loved, one of a kind bird that you are.
Oh my gosh, that is, you're going to make me cry. But seriously, that's like, that basically sums up my like transition from adolescence into adulthood as it definitely was. Felt like a black sheep situation. And so like I'm a really pretty blue jay now. Look at me, y'all. Check me out, pigeons.
If you get a tattoo, can I get credit for that?
You would if I would ever get a tattoo. So I'm one of the rare people. So like I said, I'm the baby of the family, and I have, being a creative and not having a tattoo on my body is very strange. Yeah. But I have these weird stubborn tendencies where I'm like, everybody has a tattoo, so I don't want one. Like if someone tells me to do something, I don't want to do it. Yeah. And if they tell me to not do something, then I want to do it. So I'm like, I'm 26. I've never gotten a tattoo. I'm good. Like, I'm just never going to get one. Mm-hmm. But if I did get one, I would totally like put Ryan and then put TM and put it in a circle.
Yeah. That's so cool. I'm kind of the same way where you be the change you want to be in the world or just like, no, a way more concrete example is drinking. Like I never drank until even after my 21st birthday. So I didn't even drink on my own 21st birthday. Because I was like, I don't want to do this because I'm supposed to, because I'm in college or in high school because that's illegal. I don't want to. I was like, if I drink, I want to do it because I want to drink. So even now, I'm like, I don't drink beer because I'm like, I don't think it tastes good. So I'm like, I'll have a mixed drink or whatever. But even then, I'm still. It's like if you're in your 20s, you're still technically in that. You're supposed to go to the bar scene or you're supposed to do X, Y, Z, and I don't. But it's just like, if I have a free drink, I'll probably have one, but I'm not going to try and get blasted because I just don't want to do that. So that's another positive of where I'm at in life is that's one area where I feel like I have control where I'm like, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. Which is always good.
That's my other stubborn part. Well, I'm French, Irish, and Catholic, so the like not drinking thing is not a thing for me. But it's more of like a social fun thing. Like I've tried to. One night I was like, I want to have a margarita, and I was by myself, and I had a sip, and I was like, this feels really sad and depressing. So I just threw the rest down the sink. But I'm the same way. Like I've never been high before, and I've never smoked pot or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have a desire to do it. And I feel like if I were to do it, I'm out of those years in my life. But again, it's the other stubbornness thing of like, I just want to be able to say that I've never done it. Yeah. Which is like a weird mindset, but
that's true. It makes you unique.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, I'm going to be I know. I'm the same way. Well, yeah, I had guacamole for the first time like last week. I hated it.
Did you?
But I was like, I'm never going to try it because I don't want to pay to try something I think I'm not going to like anyway. And then I tried it and I was like, I don't like it.
Yeah, I love guacamole, but I'm not one of those people who's going to be like, oh, you don't love it? How could you not?
That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, you haven't seen XYZ movie? You haven't lived.
Yeah.
What?
It's like, sorry, I was living life while I was not watching that movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. What's like a movie or TV show that people are like
Game
all
of Thrones.
about that you haven't seen?
Game of Thrones.
Same. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm that person that if you ask me, hey, have you seen, I'm just like that, how I rudely interrupted you saying Game of Thrones. Yeah, right. I just rudely interrupted and say no, because most likely I have not seen it.
Have you seen Friends?
I've seen some episodes. I know enough to know Smelly Cat and Pivot. So like, I know the basics of the show, but I couldn't tell you details about it.
I haven't seen it.
You're not missing out. Honestly.
Oh, man, that's controversial.
I know. People are going to hang up. They're going to like end the podcast and be like, nope, I hate this girl. No, it's okay. I think it was good in its time. I heard they're doing a reboot, which is like, can we leave it in the past, y'all? Like, we don't enjoy the episodes when they existed, like as they were. We don't, like, what is up with this? We have enough TV already that like, we don't need these reboots.
What's one of your favorite like TV shows that you've seen? Do you think either the acting's really good, the story, something like that?
Probably the most memorable TV show. So I recently I love The Good Place, just because it's really simple. It's kind of mindless TV, but it has really good quick wit, kind of like New Girl.
Mm-hmm.
But one TV show that I think stands out to me that is just like, wow, that was a great series was Bates Motel.
I haven't seen that.
It's dark, but like the acting was good, the writing was good. It was creepy, but it was just a very cinematic experience, and I think like you could just tell that there was a lot of love put behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, because it was based on Psycho, it's like Norman and Norma Bates, and but it was just a really interesting show, and it just had me hooked, and it's just one of those TV shows that I still think about randomly, and I'm like, oh gosh, that was so good.
Yeah.
What about for you? What's a series that you like?
I think Ozark is actually really good. The one with Jason Bateman, who was in Arrested Development, but then like he's now like
Yeah.
the drug lord basically of. I think he's actually a better actor. Like people were saying, he gets his career defining by Ozark. I don't know. I really like it. Plus, it was like a good kind of transfer over from Breaking Bad, but I think it's just really interesting.
That sounds like my kind of show. I'm on both ends of the spectrum where it's like I either need to be really
Yep.
involved in what's happening or like I can do the dishes and listen to it
Mm-hmm.
and still laugh
Yeah.
at it. Like
Right.
yeah, that sounds
So
great.
let's go back a little bit to music. Where
Mhm.
who are some like artists or musicians that you're really like, wow, Taylor Swift? She's just like, a lot of people don't know how awesome of a person she is, or just a random musician that you really like are either inspired by in your genre, or just like really amazed by either the like the person that they are, or just their overall body of work.
So there's a few people that are as of late. Khalid is one. Khalid is someone that he has been able to take the singer-songwriter, like take singer-songwriter songs and put them on radio. And I mean, he has great producers around him too.
Yeah.
But he came on the scene when he was 17 years old, and he writes all of his songs. I mean, of course, he has co writers, but his talent is just insane. And I also love him because he's embraced his voice. And that's something that when I was doing music when I was 19, a constant comment was, well, you write good songs, but your voice isn't really good for radio.
Mm.
And that was something I struggled with because I had kind of prided myself on never having training and just really, it took a long time to enjoy my singing voice, not enjoy it, but like learn to accept it.
Yeah.
And then to have that be the comment, then because of my stubbornness, I'm like, well, screw you. Like, because you don't like my voice, now I'm really going to go with it and run with it. And
Mm.
and Khalid just posted about that on Instagram the other day. He was saying that a lot of people said that his voice was not good for radio, and he really didn't trust himself in that aspect too. So I just love when artists are like, yeah, my voice is not, it's super unique and it's not what you hear on the radio, but
Right.
I have a story to tell, and like my voice is the only one that can convey it. Just to have, because that's such a confidence thing. So yeah, I love Khalid. If you just really listen to his songs, he tells such great stories. He's just, I think his songwriting abilities are very underrated. And then Ryan Tedder is another person that I adore. He, like any great pop song that you hear on radio, look up who the writers are because most likely Ryan Tedder is behind it. And then he also, for people who don't know his name, he has the band One Republic. And it's really cool because with One Republic, he's able to do his own style. And then he's also able to cash in on the pops, music scene of LA. And I've listened to some podcasts with him, and he just like he seems to have it all balanced and good. Just very humble. Again, one of those people that he is now in a position of not power, but he's very successful.
Right.
And he lives in such an abundance mindset. And I so admire people that came from nothing and succeeded. And they could very easily say, well, I had to do it by myself, so you do it by yourself. But instead, he's like, hey, it was really tough for me because I had to do this by myself and I didn't have other people to lean on. And so now that I'm in this position, let me help you so you don't have to struggle as hard. And that is just, whenever I see people that have that kind of mindset, it makes me so happy. And so he's one that I
That's
look at
great.
as far as like, just because he could be such an asshole. Like he's earned the right to be a horrible person. And so it's just really cool when you see someone like that who's just absolutely killing it in every aspect of their life. And then on top of it, they're nice, which is like, to me too, it's like, that's unfair. Like, you're attractive, you're funny, and you're nice, and you make buco bucks, and you're just like a super talented artist. Like, can you do one thing wrong? Like, can you not have everything? But no, he's super cool. So those are definitely a couple of
Yeah.
people recently that I just look at and I
That's great.
so admire and hope to not walk in their footsteps, but like be in the same position and hopefully affect people how they've affected me in my career.
How did you know Michael?
So I went to an ASCAP expo, and that
What
was
is that?
in May. So ASCAP is a PRO, which is a oh my gosh, I forget what that stands for. I think it's like the production rights organization. Um, but anyways, ASCAP is like a music thing, and so it was a music networking event in LA. And actually, this circles back to Khalid because I was walking back to my hotel room, and one of the I saw this panel for Khalid's new album, Free Spirit. And I was like, oh, I love him. Like, I don't know what this panel's about, but I'm just going to go pop my head in. And Michael's friend John had done the mixing on Khalid's album, and they were talking about mixing, which that is not something I'm into, but John just
Right.
had such an infectious personality. And I love when people nerd out about what they love. Like, you could love Dungeons and Dragons, and a I couldn't give a care in the world about it. But if you are excited and you're talking passionately about it and you're just animated, I'm in. I'm hooked because I love
Yeah.
seeing people get super excited about things that they love. And that's how John was. And so I waited for the panel to be over, and I was going to go talk to John, but a lot of people were running up to him and talking to him. And so I was doing that awkward thing where I was kind of standing to the side a little bit.
Yep.
And then Michael kept looking at me. And so I went over and I talked to him and found out that he was buddies with John. But yeah, I just talked to him in that moment and then connected with him on Instagram. And it was so interesting listening to him talk to you because how he was saying that he likes to check up on people via
Yeah.
Instagram Messenger just to be like, hey, there's a person behind here. um, it is so true. And that's how he and I became buds. And like, we really kind of connected through that. And just like, I would post a story and he would react to it. And then he would post something that was super motivating and I would respond to him. And he's actually going to be coming to Nashville at the end of November. And we're going to work on a music project together.
Wow.
Yeah. It was just a weird meeting, and just one of those things where it's like, oh, I didn't know that me standing awkwardly wanting to talk to your friend would like develop this really cool.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That stuff like that. Anytime like people meet, just in general, platonic or romantic, I always think of that one, and I have to see the movie, but like Cloud Atlas, where it's just like people have known each other in previous lives or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't necessarily believe in it, but it's just kind of funny to think of like, what if like there's just certain people that in every single life you live, if that was the case, that like you always interact with every time because you just have that energy. It's just like, I don't know, that it's just the same person every time. I don't know. There's just people that no matter what was going on, you'd always be attracted to them and to have them as your best friend, or to, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And it's really interesting because I feel like, and I went to this expo in LA by myself.
Yeah.
So I forcibly put myself in a vulnerable position because, as much as I like to talk clearly, I get
Mm-hmm.
very nervous in those
Yeah.
situations. And so I had to force myself to really meet people. But it's really interesting because when you are in a position like that, I think you have a really kind of hyper focused read on people. And he just like, it was just really easy to go up to him and say hi. And that's like the songwriter producer that I was telling you about. He just walked by me. His name's Brian. He just walked by me. And after he had walked by me, I immediately thought, I need to find out who that person is. I don't know who he is, what he does, what his story is, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to meet him. And so I ended up finding him again later in the crowd and introduced myself. And it was just one of those, like, my brain was just like, if you get on the plane tonight, not
Yep.
having introduced yourself to this
Yep.
person, you're going to think about it for a long time. And it was just one of those weird things. And then he's kind of a weird, pivotal person in my life too. And I don't think he knows that, but he's definitely played a huge role. And it's funny how those things happen. And it's funny too when you just know how much a person means to you in your life. And it's like, you
Gosh,
might
yeah.
be creeped out if I told you like
Yep.
how important you are to me, even in the smallest role that you've played.
Man, yeah, I totally empathize with that. There's some people, like, when I feel a way about somebody, it's like deep in my heart. It's just hard sometimes to communicate that. Like, they can kind of receive it, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
like they, it gets frustrating because I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't see what I see, and I see so much potential, or love, or, you know, drive in you, or I like can just see something almost like an energy or a light, but it's not like that voodoo-ish. If you know,
Yeah.
like, it's this weird, like, I see this characteristic and I can feel it, and I want to explain that to you and how much I love that about you, and then I can say it, but then they don't know necessarily how to take it. But
Yes.
oh well, I'll still say it.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I think about that and like, just like, I just remember this one girl and I don't know her. I was standing out getting ready to go out with friends in Nashville and I was waiting for my Uber and I was just talking to my friend and this girl leans out of her car and she goes, "Hey, you're really beautiful." And
uh
I still think about her to this day and
yeah.
how amazing that made me feel. And I just like, that was probably, it was over a year ago. And here I am still, like, even on my worst days, I'll just remember her. And I'm like, dang, if only you knew what an impact you had on me. And that really, like, and that also shook me to, like, if I see someone who looks like has a super cute outfit on, or is just like someone who's just really pretty or has an amazing personality, I tell them now. And I'm like, some people look at me like I'm a freak. And some people look at me like, who are you? Or some people are receptive to it. But it's like, I just say it because that girl had the guts to say it. And she didn't know like how much that meant to
Yeah.
me, to the point where like, I'll probably be 80 years old and just be like, wow, remember that girl who yelled out of her car at me?
And she's your nurse.
Yes. She's like,
No.
wait, that was me.
Or like she walks in on your deathbed and she's like, "You're beautiful," and you're like, "Oh my god, this is the best way to go out."
I remember that voice.
I
Is that
remember
you?
you. My mom said that she called you beautiful. It's like her. It's like her great granddaughter.
I think we have the makings of a new television show that we would both
Yes.
watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll work on it off screen.
Perfect.
Don't want to give it away. We don't have to give all the way the details yet.
I mean, we gave away the deathbed scene, so we're kind of
Oh
screwed.
shoot. We'll do that as like the opening episode somehow. So
There
we
we
won't
go.
put it big as the finale, but
Yeah, we'll work backwards.
yeah. All right, let's do our closing 5 questions, and we'll get you out of here. So these are really hard questions, so appreciate your willingness to get through them. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can, I'm joking, but If you could go to dinner with anybody in the world alive, who would you go with?
Oh gosh. Jen Sincero.
Okay.
So I
That
could
makes
thank
sense.
her. Yeah, so I could thank her for being a
Yeah.
light, and then I would also selfishly ask her for advice.
Yeah. That's great. Where would you go to eat? Red Lobster, Chick-fil-A?
Red Lobster.
Well,
No, probably I'd love a good diner. Just where I could get a good burger that's not fancy and has guacamole on it. Just a good straight up diner.
all right. You get to go back in history and watch anyone perform live in concert.
Freddie
You can be
Mercury
front row if you want.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury when he was a queen.
Mm,
And I would have
that's a
to be
good one.
front row.
Be good. I think I'd probably want to go to just Woodstock just to say I've been to Woodstock.
There you go.
What is the song that will play at your wedding? You obviously have a wedding playlist, but you know.
Yeah. I don't know like what my first dance would be, but I know you have to choose a father-daughter dance song, and I've thought about that one. And that
Okay.
would be Dancing in the Moonlight.
Ooh.
Because that's like that just sparks memories with my dad.
Yeah. I'd do YMCA.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding.
if we're
I'm
choosing a
joking.
dance
I'm joking.
playlist,
I'm joking.
September by Earth, Wind, and Fire is 100% on there.
Is that the one? September. Is that
Yeah,
it? Oh, okay.
it's the
I thought it
wedding
was.
essential.
Is it Do You Remember or is it something in September? Is it
Yeah, do you
September?
remember the 21st night of September?
Oh, okay. That's one of those lyrical mind blows right there.
Well, and that's like in the chorus, people sing on and on and
Yeah.
on, but it's actually just ba da da. There's
Wow.
another lyrical one.
Oh my gosh.
Unless I'm messing that up too. And
No.
this might be another ham salad moment for me.
Ham salad. It actually is saying ham salad just really fast. Ham salad.
There we go.
Salad.
Oh, so full circle. It's great.
Yeah. Callback. Secret talent. Do you have one?
I do. I'm not going to do it, so you can just already not ask me to do it. But I can do a really great bagpipe impression. Oh, and do you know what? I do a mean Jennifer Coolidge impression.
I don't know who that is, so I'd probably say it was accurate.
Yeah, she was in Legally Blonde. She's the bend and snap lady.
Okay.
It's like a very obscure person to be able to impersonate.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Got to be unique.
Yeah, and that way people don't have a good reference point, so you just sound amazing.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of yourself?
I think now my favorite part of myself is my ability to just be myself in any situation and be completely comfortable with it, whether it's received or not.
Perfect. You passed 5 out of 5. So we've arrived to the last part of the podcast. You've made it this far. Perfect score. But you have to pick a person now.
Okay.
Anybody, best friend, significant other, family member, and you have to shout them out. You have to encourage them in as long or as short amount of time as you want. And then you have to share the podcast with them and tell them that you did this so they can hear all this. So whenever you're ready, you can encourage away, as they say.
Okay, so I'm going to give my shout out to my sister Matisse, who has the coolest name ever. But
oh my gosh,
yeah, isn't that a great name? But
yeah, after the artist.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so
but
cool.
Yeah, she has always been my biggest cheerleader and has gotten me through some real funks, and she has been my best audience whenever I'm doing stupid shit. She thinks it's hilarious when other people are just looking at me. So she has 4 kiddos that are 4, 4, 5, and 6, and she is just the best mom ever. And so, TC, I just want to encourage you and say that you are the best mom and the best sister and the best daughter, and you are absolutely killing it at life. And you're a saint. And thank you for all the support you've given me. And I hope that I can give you 1 ounce of that support back, because that's a lot. in comparison to what she gave me. I was just clarifying, so you weren't interrupting anything very important.
That's okay. Do you want to give any kind of links, social media for music, if you want to do that?
Yeah, so I have a song on Spotify, and that is called Dumb, D-U-M-B. It has some really cool strings arranged by a superhero named Brandon Michael Collins. But you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram, that's where I post most things. And that handle is Annie LaFleur Music. That's ANNIELAFLEUR Music. But I am on a hiatus right now, but I'll be back. Like, I do hiatuses and then I come back very quickly, faster than I expect. So by the time this comes out, I will probably be back on and active and doing my stupid stuff.
Cool. Well, hey, you're an awesome person and you need to know that. So thank you so much for being a part of what I'm trying to do. And every single person I've talked with so far has just been blowing my expectations out the water. And you're just another example of that. You're an awesome person. And you'll hear my ravings about you in the debrief afterwards. We're done talking. But, I thank you so much for your vulnerability, the times that you were. And you're a light to a lot of people. And I'm sure you have a bigger impact than you realize, and just a role model for a lot of people.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And thank you for doing this podcast, because I think it's really important to be able to have really tough conversations in a casual way, because I think that's how a lot of people will open up a lot more. It's when it's not a serious interrogation of what's going on in their life. And ditto to you. You're doing something really important, and I'm really excited to see where this journey takes you.
Well, hey, it's not going to be the last time we talk on here. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from the Classic Buffalo Podcast. Wanted to take a second to talk about Anchor, how I'm actually making this podcast happen. Super happy that I'm partnering with them. So, Anchor is actually the easiest way to make a podcast. I've done my research. This is basically the best way. I promise. It's going to give you everything you need in one place for free, which is the best part. It's going to have tools, so you don't really need a fancy schmancy recording guy. Anchor's going to be helping you out there, and then they're going to distribute the podcast everywhere to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everything. And then you can also make money with basically no minimum listenership, which is kind of rare. So hop on Anchor as soon as you can. Thanks. I just got done talking with Annie. Sorry if it was a little bit loud. I was actually having to record in Starbucks and they were like blaring the music, so hopefully you guys could hear all of that good. But I had kind of a difficult time in judging this episode. And the reason why I say that is because I really enjoyed talking with Annie, and sometimes I just forgot I was recording a podcast, and I had questions that I normally ask my guests. Big ones end up being like, what have other people done for you when shit hits the fan? That's a big one that I like to do. Or what do you feel like about anxiety and depression today? What are your thoughts on counseling or medication? There's some stuff that kind of makes it a little more serious or a little more contained, but I found myself just getting lost in being myself and just having conversation with someone that I vibe with. And I think I'm going to keep the episode like this. And the reason being is that I need more conversations like that. I vibe with very few people sometimes, and she's one of them, and I just met her. And I think having a record of that, and we did casually basically talk about depression and anxiety, and we shared her story and a little bit of mine, but just two people just having a great conversation. I think there's some merit in recording that and sharing that, because that's real life. It doesn't necessarily have to be an interview, right? And some things you can tell that there was some anxiety about moving to Nashville and going and pursuing music, right? Like there's anxiety behind that. But also we're Blue Jays, like me and her are very similar. We kind of found out we're just like, we've been kind of beaten down by society or people. But really, we are unique, we are loved, we're valued people, and we're the songbird of our generation, as Step Brothers, the movie, would say. But I think there's value in keeping the episode as is. I don't know. I think it's important to keep this episode for myself, and I think it's just an interesting piece to show you guys where I'm at in my life and to explain to you how important it is to save and record good moments in your life. I don't know. Like when I vibe with somebody, where you have kind of even if it's a platonic or romantic or whatever, like when you have that type of vibing and conversation is flowing and time seems to like just go really fast, that's like something you should hold on to. And if I have the opportunity to record that and share that with you guys, and then for myself to go back and go like, yeah, that was actually a really fun conversation where we were just talking about stuff, we were both ourselves, I think that's worth like sharing and publishing. I think that's something that everybody, like if you find those people, again, like platonic or romantic, it doesn't matter, like hold on to those people, like remember those, be present in those conversations. For me, those don't really happen very often. And I felt pressured to like ask all these questions and to because I do that and all the other ones, but I also do a lot of these. And sometimes I get, I wouldn't say bored, but just, I want to mix it up a little bit. And if this is what this, becomes, and it's just more of a casual conversation, then that's what it'll become. I think this is somewhat of a meta podcast in that like I do talk a little bit about how my life is coming through the questions that I ask. And that this podcast is about sharing your story, the listener. But it also is about me, towards the end, and just sharing my stories and where I'm at in my life. And Classic Buffalo is such a joy for me, and that I can literally just do whatever I want. And you're either going to listen or you don't, but it doesn't matter. It's awesome if you guys want to be a part of this and listen. But my point is that like, if I feel like I want to record this and if I want to save this and publish this, because ultimately I think this is a good example of two people vibing, and it's cool that that's recorded. I think that's cool enough. Shout out to Annie for being such a loving and goofy and awesome person. That is someone that I already want the best for. It is someone who I can't wait to see how she continues to grow. You can tell she has social anxiety, which is funny because it's like we didn't really talk that much about it, but you can just tell. And social anxiety, I have that. Like, what's his face had it last time we talked. What's your face, Luke? Shout out Luke. What's up, man? Yeah, we had social anxiety team, but yeah, you just push through it sometimes. You find a way, but ultimately, like, it's a matter of perspective. You can be the black sheep or you can be the blue jay. And I'm going to choose to be the blue jay. So I hope you can too. Realize how unique and awesome you are. The experiences, the things you think, the music you like, the food you like. It's all unique to you. You're the only amalgamation combination of all of your dislikes and likes combined into that, added with physical appearance. I don't know. You're a very unique person. Gary Vaynerchuk, he's not necessarily known for creating this statistic, but he always quotes it where the odds of being a human are 400 trillion to 1. That's nuts, versus being a tree or a bird or whatever. 400 trillion to 1. And you're a human who's listening to this podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. Hopefully we'll have another solid one for you next week. And stay alive. I love you. You're awesome. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.